Chosen one, listen to me carefully. What I'm about to share is not for everyone. This message is urgent, and it is only for those who are truly walking the divine path of God. If you are not serious about your faith, if you are only curious, or if you are here to mock spiritual truth, this message is not for you. You can leave now. But if you are a true follower of God, if you know deep in your spirit that you are chosen, called, and set apart, then this message has reached you at the exact moment God intended. Not early, not late, right on time. Today, God has a very clear command for you. He said, "Shut your mouth and listen to me." He is deadly serious about this. This is not a suggestion. This is not symbolic. This is a divine instruction meant to protect you, guide you, and preserve what God is about to do in your life. Some of you have been talking too much, explaining too much, defending yourself too much, and heaven is calling for silence. If you stay with me until the end of this message, you will understand why God stopped you, what He is doing behind the scenes, and how your obedience right now will change everything. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, share this message with other chosen ones, and comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are aligned with God's instruction and ready to obey.
Why God is commanding silence right now. Chosen one, I want you to slow down your mind for a moment and breathe. This part is important. God is not asking you to be silent because you are weak. He is not silencing you because you are wrong, and He is definitely not punishing you. God is commanding silence right now because something sacred is happening around you and within you, and your mouth can interfere with it. You see, many people misunderstand silence. They think silence means defeat. They think silence means you have nothing to say. But in the spiritual realm, silence often means God is in control. When God says, "Shut your mouth," He is saying, "Let me handle this. Let me fight this. Let me arrange this." Your job is not to explain. Your job is to trust. Some of you have been speaking out of anxiety. You talk because you want clarity. You explain because you want validation. You defend yourself because you want to be understood. But God says you don't need to be understood by people when you are already known by Him. Chosen one, the moment you start trying to explain your path to people who are not called to walk it, you drain spiritual energy. Silence preserves power. God works in seasons. There are seasons to speak boldly, and there are seasons to stay quiet and observe. Right now, many of you are in a preparation season, and preparation seasons require silence. Think about it. A seed makes no noise underground, but it is doing the most important work of its life. If it started making noise before it broke through the soil, it would die. That is exactly why God is commanding silence right now. You have been revealing too much too soon. Not because you are arrogant, but because you are hopeful. You want others to see what God is doing. You want support. You want encouragement. But God is teaching you maturity. He is teaching you restraint. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is discipline. Chosen one, every time you speak, you release something. Words are not neutral. They carry spiritual weight. When you speak prematurely, you invite opinions that God never approved. You invite doubt. You invite jealousy. You invite spiritual interference. That is why God is saying, stop talking. Not because people are dangerous, but because information is powerful. Let me be very clear. Not everyone deserves access to what God told you in prayer. Not everyone needs to hear your plans. Not everyone should know your next move. God did not reveal things to you so you could broadcast them. He revealed them so you could steward them. Some of you are wondering, why now? Why is God being so strict about this? Because you are close. And when you are close to breakthrough, the instruction becomes more precise. God doesn't whisper instructions when the stakes are high. He speaks clearly. He says, "Shut your mouth." You are in a season where God is rearranging things quietly. He is removing people without drama. He is redirecting paths without chaos. He is preparing tables without announcements. and your silence is part of that process. When you stay quiet, you allow God to move without resistance. Chosen one, understand this deeply. The enemy does not need to stop you if he can distract you into talking. Talking keeps you emotionally engaged. Talking keeps you reactive. Silence makes you observant. Silence makes you discerning. Silence keeps you spiritually grounded. There is also another reason God is commanding silence. He is detoxing your spirit. Some of you have been surrounded by noise for too long. Opinions, expectations, criticism, praise, and all of it has been pulling at your identity. Silence recalibrates you. Silence brings you back to God's voice. When you stop talking, you start hearing. When you stop explaining, you start understanding. When you stop defending, you start resting. God is not asking you to shrink. He is asking you to settle, to stabilize, to become unshakable. Chosen one, silence is also a test of obedience. God wants to see if you trust him enough to not interfere. Can you stay quiet when you want to react? Can you hold your peace when you want to prove a point? Can you let God speak for you? This is where many people fail, not because they don't love God, but because they don't trust his timing. They think if they don't speak, nothing will happen. But God says, if you speak, you might slow me down. Right now, silence is your alignment. Silence is your protection. Silence is your spiritual strategy. And when God decides it's time for you to speak again, your words will carry authority, not desperation. So don't fear this command. Don't resist it. Embrace it. Because God is not taking your voice away. He is sharpening it. Chosen one, I want you to understand something very clearly. God is not asking you to be silent forever. This is not suppression. This is strategy. Silence in this season is like holding a loaded arrow in place. If you release it too early, it loses force. If you hold it with discipline, it strikes with precision. Some of you have noticed that every time you speak about what God is doing, resistance appears immediately, confusion follows, energy drains, peace disappears. That is not a coincidence. That is spiritual law at work. God is teaching you awareness. He is showing you how sensitive your assignment is right now. Silence trains your spirit to stop reacting emotionally. It breaks the habit of seeking reassurance from people. It forces you to lean fully on God. And yes, it feels uncomfortable at first, because silence exposes impatience, it exposes insecurity, it exposes the need to be seen. But once you push through that discomfort, something powerful happens. You become steady. Chosen one, when God says shut your mouth, he is saying rest your soul. Stop wrestling with outcomes. Stop trying to manage perception. Stop correcting narratives. God does not need your help to defend your destiny. What he needs is your obedience. This is a refining moment, a sacred pause. And if you honor it, you will notice your peace returning, your clarity sharpening, your confidence deepening. Silence will no longer feel like pressure. It will feel like protection. And when the time comes for God to release your voice again, you will not speak from anxiety. You will speak from authority. The deadly consequences of talking too much as a chosen one. Chosen one, now we move into a part of this message that requires honesty and maturity. Not fear, not panic, but deep awareness. When God says he is deadly serious about this, he is not being dramatic. He is being precise. Because for a chosen one, words are never just words. They are weapons. They are keys. They are doors. You must understand this clearly. What is harmless for others can be dangerous for you. Why? Because you carry spiritual weight. Your words move things. Your voice shifts atmospheres. That is why careless speech costs you more than it costs others. Many chosen ones suffer unnecessary delays, spiritual attacks, emotional exhaustion, and broken peace, not because the enemy is powerful, but because they talk too much. They explain things God never asked them to explain. They respond to people God never told them to address. They defend themselves when God already said, I will defend you. Let me speak plainly. Every time you speak about what God is doing before it is finished, you expose it. Exposure attracts interference. Interference slows momentum. This is not superstition. This is spiritual law. Think about it. The enemy cannot read your mind, but he can hear your mouth. He learns your fears when you speak them. He studies your plans when you announce them. He targets your weak points when you complain out loud. Silence starves opposition. Chosen one, many of you think the resistance you face is because you are chosen. That is partly true. But some of the resistance you face is self-created, not intentionally, but through oversharing, venting, and explaining your journey to people who are not spiritually aligned with you. God never told you to convince anyone. God never told you to prove your calling. God never told you to announce every move. Those impulses come from the flesh, not the spirit. Let me say something that might sting a little, but it will heal you. Not everyone who listens to you supports you. Some people listen to collect information. Some listen out of curiosity. Some listen out of jealousy. And some listen because they are waiting for you to fail. Silence protects you from all of that. When you talk too much, you give people access they did not earn. You invite opinions that God did not approve. You open doors that God already closed. And then you wonder why your peace keeps leaking. Chosen one, words also lock you into timelines. When you speak prematurely, you create expectations. People expect results. They expect progress. They expect explanations. And suddenly you feel pressured to perform instead of trust. Silence frees you from that pressure. God is not impressed by announcements. He is impressed by obedience. Another deadly consequence of talking too much is emotional exhaustion. Every explanation costs energy. Every defense drains peace. Every unnecessary conversation pulls you out of alignment. That is why many of you feel tired even when you are not doing much physically. Your mouth has been working overtime. Let me ask you something. How many battles have you fought that God never assigned to you? How many arguments drained you that silence could have avoided? How many nights of overthinking came from one unnecessary conversation? Chosen one, silence is not avoidance, it is wisdom. Jesus himself stayed silent when accusations were thrown at him, not because he was guilty, but because he was secure. Silence is the language of confidence. Talking too much also confuses spiritual signals. When God is speaking, your voice can drown him out. When you constantly process out loud, you stop listening inwardly. Silence creates space for discernment. God is deadly serious about this because your next level requires precision. Loose words create loose outcomes. Focused silence creates alignment. Some of you have been warning people, explaining yourself, trying to make them understand your growth. God says, stop. Let fruit speak. Let time speak. Let me speak. Chosen one, you don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to announce your separation from old cycles. Silence allows transformation to finish its work. There is also a spiritual consequence many people don't talk about. Talking too much ties you spiritually to people who are no longer assigned to your life. Conversations create soul ties. Silence breaks them. That is why God is commanding silence now. He is severing old attachments. He is closing doors quietly. He is removing people gently. And if you keep talking, you keep reopening what God is trying to shut. Let me be clear again. This is not about becoming cold. This is not about isolation for ego. This is about stewardship. Stewardship of your peace. Stewardship of your calling. Stewardship of what God entrusted you with. Chosen one, every time you choose silence over reaction, you grow stronger. Every time you hold your tongue, you gain authority. Every time you let God speak for you, you win without fighting. God is not threatening you, He is protecting you. But protection requires cooperation. So hear this as correction wrapped in love. Talking too much is not harmless anymore. Not at this level. Not in this season. God is too invested in you to allow careless speech to sabotage what He is building. Silence now will save you pain later. Silence now will shorten battles. Silence now will accelerate outcomes. And if you obey, you will look back and realize that shutting your mouth was not restriction. It was rescue. Chosen one, There is another layer to this that many are not ready to hear, but you are. When God elevates you, your words gain spiritual visibility. Things respond to what you say, even when you are not aware of it. That is why careless speech becomes costly at higher levels. Some of you have unknowingly spoken delays over yourselves. You called a temporary struggle permanent. You spoke frustration instead of faith. You verbalized doubt during a moment that required trust. And heaven took note, not to punish you, but to teach you restraint. God is deadly serious because words can either partner with his plan or resist it. There is no neutral ground. That is why silence is safer than wrong speech. When you are unsure, quietness protects you from misalignment. Chosen one, think about how many times God has already rescued you by stopping a conversation, canceling a meeting, or cutting communication suddenly. Those were not accidents. Those were divine interruptions. God was saving you from saying something that would cost you peace, momentum, or favor. Silence also keeps you from carrying burdens that are not yours. When you talk too much, people unload their chaos onto you. They project their fears, opinions, and limitations, and without realizing it, you start carrying weight God never assigned. God is teaching you to be selective, not silent out of fear, but silent out of wisdom. When you speak, it must be intentional. When you stay quiet, it must be powerful. This level of discipline is not for everyone. It is for chosen ones. Because much has been entrusted to you, much is required of you. So if this feels strict, it is because it is sacred. God is guarding something precious, and that precious thing is you. God is hiding you, not ignoring you. Chosen one, this is where many of you have been hurting silently. And I want to speak to that place with wisdom, not noise, with truth, not emotion. Because if you don't understand this season correctly, you will misinterpret God's silence as rejection. And that is a lie that has exhausted many chosen ones. God is not ignoring you. He is hiding you. There is a big difference. Ignoring is neglect. Hiding is protection. Ignoring means you are forgotten. Hiding means you are being preserved. And right now, God has you hidden for a reason that is bigger than your current emotions. Some of you feel unseen, uncelebrated, unrecognized. You are doing the right things, walking away from old habits, growing spiritually, yet it feels like nothing is happening outwardly. No applause, no validation, no visible progress, and the mind starts whispering, "Did God forget me?" No. God hid you. Chosen one, when God is about to elevate someone, he removes unnecessary eyes first. Not everyone needs to witness your becoming. Some people only deserve to see the finished work. If they see you too early, they interfere. If they hear too much, they criticize. If they have access during your transformation, they contaminate the process. God hides his chosen ones the way a craftsman hides a masterpiece until it is complete. Not because it lacks value, but because it is valuable. You must understand this. Exposure too early can destroy destiny. That is why God pulled you back. That is why conversations dried up. That is why invitations stopped. That is why you feel isolated. This is not abandonment. This is divine covering. Think about it. Every major shift in Scripture was preceded by isolation, wilderness, waiting, silence. Not because God was cruel, but because God was intentional. Noise disrupts formation. Right now, God is forming you, quietly, deeply, internally. Chosen one, some of you were surrounded by people who benefited from the old version of you. They liked you when you overgave, when you over-explained, when you stayed small. But the moment God began expanding you, those connections became dangerous. So God did what you couldn't. He separated you. And separation feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Let me say something gently but firmly. Not everyone who left your life was stolen by the enemy. Some were removed by God. And silence is how he completes the removal without drama. If you kept talking, you would reopen doors God closed. If you kept explaining, you would negotiate with assignments that already expired. Silence allows God to finalize transitions. Chosen one, hiding seasons are uncomfortable because they force you to sit with yourself. No distractions, no applause, no external affirmation. Just you and God. And that is where identity is purified. You don't realize it yet, but God is detoxing your spirit. He is removing the need to be seen, the need to be understood, the need to be validated by people. Silence is burning those attachments away. And I know, it hurts sometimes. You want to be known. You want to be appreciated. You want someone to acknowledge your growth. But God says, if they applaud too early, they will also criticize too early. So I will hide you until you are unshakable. Chosen one, hiding is also rest. God knows how tired you were. Emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You were constantly explaining yourself, fixing misunderstandings, carrying other people's expectations. Silence gives your nervous system peace. It gives your soul room to breathe. You are not meant to be accessible all the time. Even Jesus withdrew. Even Jesus stepped away. Even Jesus went silent. Not because he lacked power, but because he respected timing. Some of you think visibility equals progress. That is not true. Some of the greatest progress happens in invisibility. Roots grow in darkness. Strength forms in silence. God is strengthening your roots. That is why things feel slow. That is why answers feel delayed. That is why momentum feels internal rather than external. God is stabilizing you so that when he does elevate you, you don't fall apart under pressure. Chosen one, hear this carefully. If God exposed you right now, it would overwhelm you. If he promoted you before your inner world was ready, it would break you. So he hides you to prepare you. Silence is part of that preparation. And let me tell you something important. God hides his chosen ones from their enemies, but he also hides them from themselves, from their impatience, from their ego, from their tendency to rush ahead of God. In hiding, you learn obedience, you learn stillness, you learn trust, you learn that God's presence is enough even when nothing else is happening. This season is teaching you to stop measuring your worth by activity, to stop equating silence with failure, to stop assuming that nothing is happening just because nothing is visible. Chosen one, heaven is busy even when earth is quiet. God is rearranging people. He is aligning timing. He is removing obstacles you can't see. He is softening hearts. He is closing loopholes, and he is doing it without involving you, because your involvement would complicate it. That is why he said, shut your mouth, not because you don't matter, but because this part does not require your commentary. It requires your trust. I know some of you feel lonely. Isolation has a way of whispering lies, but loneliness in a hiding season is temporary. Protection is permanent. God did not pull you back to forget you. He pulled you back to fortify you. And one day, not by force, not by announcement, not by explanation, God will bring you forward again, quietly, smoothly, undeniably. And when he does, you will realize that this silent season did not delay you. It saved you. Chosen one, there is something else God does in hiding seasons that most people never talk about. He reintroduces you to yourself. When the noise fades and the audience disappears, you are forced to face who you really are without titles, without applause, without roles. And that is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. In silence, God exposes patterns you ignored when life was loud. He shows you where you were people-pleasing instead of obeying, where you were performing instead of resting, where you were strong on the outside but depleted on the inside. This is not to shame you, it is to heal you. Many chosen ones confuse productivity with purpose. God strips that confusion in hiding. He teaches you that your value is not tied to output, that your worth does not increase when people see you. Silence resets your identity back to sonship, not service. Chosen one, God is also teaching you discernment in this season. When you are hidden, you learn who truly hears you and who only heard your noise. You learn which relationships were assignment-based and which were convenience-based. Silence reveals truth without confrontation. Some of you were surrounded by spiritual noise disguised as support. Too many voices, too many opinions, too many hands touching what God was shaping. So God removed the crowd, not to punish you, but to protect the process. Let me tell you this plainly. If God allowed everyone to stay, you would not survive the next level. Certain connections would drain you. Certain conversations would confuse you. Certain expectations would delay you. So God did what love does. He intervened. And yes, it hurts to be misunderstood. It hurts to not explain yourself. It hurts to watch people assume things about you. But silence builds a strength that explanation never could. Chosen one, when you come out of hiding, you will not need to announce it. Your peace will speak. Your stability will speak. Your discernment will speak. You will move differently. You will respond differently. You will no longer chase understanding, because hiding didn't make you smaller. It made you solid. The difference between holy silence and fear-based silence. Chosen one, now we must bring balance. Because silence can heal you, but misunderstanding silence can harm you. Not all silence is the same. There is a silence that comes from God, and there is a silence that comes from fear. One builds authority, the other shrinks you. And if you don't learn the difference, you may obey when God wants boldness or speak when God wants stillness. Holy silence is calm. Fear-based silence is tense. Holy silence feels grounded. Fear-based silence feels tight in the chest. When God tells you to be quiet, there is peace underneath it, even if it's uncomfortable. When fear tells you to be quiet, there is anxiety underneath it, even if it looks wise on the surface. This is how you discern it. Holy silence is chosen. Fear-based silence is forced. When God commands silence, you are not afraid to speak. You are simply choosing not to. You could respond, but you don't feel the need. You could explain, but you sense restraint. There is strength in that. Fear-based silence, on the other hand, is when you want to speak but feel paralyzed. You shrink back. You suppress truth. You stay quiet to avoid conflict, rejection, or loss. God never calls you to shrink. He calls you to be strategic. Chosen one, some of you have been silent for the wrong reasons in the past. You stayed quiet because you didn't want to upset people. You swallowed truth to keep peace. You avoided speaking up because you feared consequences. That kind of silence weakens the spirit, and God does not honor it. Holy silence does not compromise truth. It delays it. There is a time when God says, "Don't speak yet." And there is a time when God says, "Speak now." The same God who tells you to shut your mouth in one season will tell you to open it boldly in another. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Look at your inner state. When you are operating in holy silence, you feel anchored. You are not constantly rehearsing conversations in your head. You are not replaying arguments you didn't have. You are not afraid of being misunderstood. You trust that God will clarify things in His time. Fear-based silence keeps your mind busy. It keeps you overthinking. It keeps you wondering what would happen if you spoke. That is not God's peace. Chosen one, holy silence strengthens your spine. Fear-based silence weakens it. This is important because many chosen ones swing to extremes. They hear a message like this and think God wants them silent in every situation. That is not true. There are moments when silence becomes disobedience, when injustice needs a voice, when truth needs to be spoken, when God calls you to stand, not hide. Jesus was silent before Pilate, but he was bold in the temple. Same person, same authority, different timing. God is teaching you timing. Holy silence is rooted in discernment. Fear-based silence is rooted in avoidance. One is led by the Spirit, the other is led by survival. Chosen one, another key difference is motivation. Ask yourself, why am I being quiet right now? Is it because God told me to wait? Or is it because I'm afraid of what might happen if I speak? Your honest answer will reveal the source. Holy silence never disconnects you from God. Fear-based silence often does. When fear is in control, prayer decreases. When God is in control, prayer increases. Silence from God draws you closer to Him. Silence from fear isolates you from Him. Some of you are learning this right now. You are quiet, but not withdrawn. You are silent, but not numb. You are reserved, but deeply connected to God. That is holy silence, and it is building something solid inside you. Chosen one, holy silence also knows when to end. It does not linger longer than necessary. Fear-based silence has no ending. It keeps postponing expression. It keeps delaying obedience. It keeps saying, maybe later. When God releases your voice again, you will feel it. There will be clarity. There will be boldness without aggression. There will be truth without apology. That is how you know it's time. Let me say this clearly. God is not muting you. He is tuning you. He is removing nervous energy from your voice. He is removing the need to convince. He is removing emotional reactivity so that when you do speak, your words carry weight. Chosen one, holy silence builds confidence quietly. Fear-based silence erodes it slowly. If you stay quiet out of fear long enough, resentment builds, confusion grows, identity weakens. That is why God does not allow His chosen ones to remain silent out of fear. He corrects that, but when silence comes from God, confidence grows. You feel settled. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to be heard. You know who you are. This season, God is not asking you to disappear. He is asking you to discern. There will be moments when you stay quiet and let God fight. And there will be moments when you speak and let God back you. Both require courage. Chosen one, do not confuse obedience with avoidance. Do not confuse peace with passivity. And do not confuse silence with fear. God's silence sharpens you. Fear's silence shrinks you. And as you learn the difference, you will stop second-guessing yourself. You will move with clarity. You will rest when God says rest. And you will speak when God says speak. That is spiritual maturity. What God is doing while you are silent. Chosen one, this is the part you need to hear if your patience is wearing thin. Because silence can feel empty when you don't know what's happening behind the curtain. But let me tell you this with certainty. While you are silent, God is extremely active. Heaven is never idle, even when your life looks quiet. God often works in ways that do not involve you on purpose. Not because you are excluded, but because you would interfere. Some battles are not meant to be fought by you. Some conversations are not meant to include you. Some shifts happen best when you are not present to overthink them. While you are quiet, God is rearranging people. He is moving hearts you cannot reach. He is removing resistance you cannot confront. He is softening situations you cannot control. If you spoke, you would complicate what God is simplifying. Chosen one, God is also dealing with opposition quietly. You don't see it, but He is exposing motives. He is dismantling schemes. He is neutralizing envy. He is creating distance between you and what meant to harm you. Silence keeps you out of the crossfire. Some of you were praying for God to fight for you. This is Him doing it. Silence is how you stay out of the way. While you are silent, God is correcting narratives. Lies spoken about you are being revealed without you defending yourself. False assumptions are collapsing under their own weight. People are beginning to see truth without you explaining it. That is divine vindication. Chosen one, God is also building your inner strength. Silence forces you inward, and inward is where true authority is formed. While you are not speaking, your discernment is sharpening. Your patience is increasing. Your emotional reactions are slowing down. This is growth. God is also teaching you how to hear Him more clearly. Noise competes with God's voice. Silence amplifies it. That is why some of you have been receiving clearer intuition, stronger convictions, deeper understanding lately. You didn't lose momentum. You gained perception. While you are silent, God is upgrading your spirit. He is removing old triggers. He is healing wounds you didn't know were still open. He is breaking cycles that were activated by your reactions. Silence stops old patterns from repeating. Chosen one, silence also gives God legal room to act. When you stop speaking out of emotion, God can move without contradiction. Your silence is agreement. It is trust made visible. Some of you don't realize how much God is doing because you are used to measuring progress by noise, by messages, by movement, by validation. God measures progress by alignment. While you are silent, God is aligning timing. There are people who are not ready yet. There are doors that are not open yet. There are opportunities that would fail if released too early. Silence protects timing. Chosen one, God is also observing your obedience, not to test you cruelly, but to confirm your readiness. Can you hold peace when misunderstood? Can you wait without complaining? Can you trust without controlling? These are signs of maturity. While you are quiet, God is preparing sudden shifts. Breakthroughs often arrive quietly at first. A phone call, a realization, a door opening, a problem resolving itself. Silence keeps you sensitive enough to notice them. God is also teaching you to stop chasing closure. Not everything needs to be discussed. Not every chapter needs a conversation. Silence allows God to close things without reopening wounds. Chosen one, some of you feel like life slowed down. It didn't. It became intentional. God removed distractions so he could focus you. While you are silent, God is restoring your nervous system. Stress decreases. Overthinking quiets. Emotional swings stabilize. Peace returns. That is healing. Let me say this clearly. Silence is not a pause in God's plan. It is part of it. God is not waiting on you to speak. He is waiting on you to trust. And as long as you stay aligned, you don't need to know every detail. You just need to stay quiet, stay faithful, and stay available. Because when God finishes what he is doing in silence, the outcome will speak louder than anything you ever could. Chosen one, there is another powerful truth about this silent season that many overlook. While you are quiet, God is rewiring how you respond to life. He is slowing your reactions so you no longer operate from impulse, but from wisdom. Silence retrains your nervous system to stop jumping at every trigger. That is not accidental. That is preparation. You are being trained to respond, not react. In the past, certain words, certain people, certain situations could pull you out of peace instantly. God is breaking that hold. Silence creates distance between the trigger and the response. And in that space, freedom is born. You are learning restraint, not repression. Control, not suppression. While you are silent, God is also restoring your authority. Authority is not loud. Authority is settled. People with true authority do not rush to be heard. They know their presence speaks. God is teaching you to carry that kind of weight. Chosen one, heaven respects restraint. Angels move faster when obedience is quiet. Silence is a sign that you trust God enough not to supervise him, and that trust gives him room to accelerate things you could never speed up yourself. God is also protecting you from premature celebration. Some victories cannot be announced because they are still fragile. God shields fragile blessings. Silence is how he keeps them intact until they are strong enough to stand on their own. While you are silent, God is also revealing who is aligned with you without words. Pay attention. Notice who stays connected without constant communication. Notice who respects your boundaries without explanation. Silence reveals loyalty without testing. Chosen one, God is also saving you from regret. Some words cannot be taken back. Some explanations cannot be undone. Silence prevents future damage you cannot yet see. God sees the end from the beginning. You only see the moment. That is why he intervenes. While you are quiet, God is also strengthening your faith muscles. Faith grows best when it is not constantly narrated. Silence forces you to believe without commentary, to trust without reassurance, to wait without updates. This kind of faith is rare, and that is why not everyone can handle silence. But you can, because you were chosen for depth, not noise. Chosen one, Silence also recalibrates your desires. When you stop talking about what you want, you start listening to what God wants, and often you realize your desires begin to align with His. That alignment brings peace. God is also dissolving your need for control. Talking is often an attempt to manage outcomes. Silence surrenders them, and surrender is where divine movement accelerates. Some of you are noticing that situations are resolving themselves without your involvement, conflicts dissolving, tension easing, answers arriving. That is not coincidence. That is God working unobstructed. Chosen one, while you are silent, God is teaching you that your destiny does not depend on your ability to explain it. It depends on your willingness to obey. This season is stripping away performance and replacing it with presence. You no longer need to convince anyone. You no longer need to justify your path. You no longer need to narrate your growth. Your peace is the proof. And as this season continues, you will notice something subtle but powerful. You will feel lighter, clearer, more grounded, less reactive, less anxious, less driven by urgency. That is not stagnation, that is stabilization. And stabilization always comes before elevation. So stay quiet, stay grounded, stay obedient, because God is doing far more in your silence than you ever did in your noise. Practical spiritual guidance. How to obey this command daily. Chosen one, now we bring this message out of the clouds and into your daily life, because obedience is not theoretical, it is practical. God did not say, "Shut your mouth," so you could feel confused. He said it so you could live differently, think clearly, and move with peace. Let me guide you gently but firmly. The first practice is learning to pause before you speak. Not every thought needs a voice. Not every emotion needs an audience. When something triggers you, don't rush to respond. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself one simple question. Did God ask me to speak here, or am I trying to relieve discomfort? That question alone will save you from many unnecessary battles. Chosen one, silence begins internally before it becomes external. You must quiet the urge to explain, the urge to correct, the urge to be understood. Those urges are natural, but they are not always spiritual. Discipline is not denying yourself truth. It is choosing the right moment to release it. Another daily practice is redirecting speech into prayer. When you feel like venting, pray instead. When you want to explain yourself, talk to God. When frustration rises, bring it inward, not outward. Prayer is speech that heals. Venting is speech that leaks power. You will notice something powerful when you do this consistently. The emotional charge loses strength. Problems that felt urgent begin to shrink. Your nervous system calms. That is because you stopped feeding the issue with words. Chosen one, journaling is another holy alternative to oversharing. Write what you feel instead of saying it. Writing releases emotion without creating spiritual exposure. It gives clarity without inviting interference. God honors private processing. Now let's talk about boundaries. Silence requires boundaries. You don't need to announce them. You don't need to explain them. You enforce them quietly. Answer less. Explain less. React less. This is not coldness. This is stewardship. Some people will feel uncomfortable when you stop talking. That is not your problem. They were used to having access they no longer deserve. Silence often offends entitlement. Let it. Chosen one, another daily practice is choosing peace over proving a point. Many arguments are not about truth. They are about ego. If speaking will not produce fruit, silence is wisdom. You don't need to win conversations. You need to preserve alignment. Let me say this clearly. Silence does not mean you allow disrespect. It means you choose your response carefully. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response. Sometimes distance speaks louder than words. You must also learn to recognize divine restraint. There will be moments when words rise in your throat and something inside you says, "Not now." Honor that. That is the Holy Spirit guiding you. Obedience is often quiet. Chosen one, simplify your communication. Speak less, but mean more. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Stop over-explaining. Over-explaining is often rooted in insecurity. Security does not require elaboration. Another important practice is discerning your audience. Ask yourself, is this person safe? Are they spiritually aligned? Do they need this information? Most of the time, the answer will be no, and that is okay. God never told you to be accessible to everyone. Chosen one, practice emotional containment. This does not mean suppression. It means you process emotions in healthy, private spaces. With God, with wisdom, not in reactive conversations. You will also need to get comfortable with being misunderstood. Silence invites misunderstanding at first. People will assume. Let them. God will correct narratives in time. Your job is not to manage perception. It is to manage obedience. Another daily discipline is reducing unnecessary communication. Less scrolling, less explaining, less debating, less defending. Quiet your external world so your internal world can stay clear. Chosen one, silence also includes what you consume. Too much noise in means too much noise out. Guard your input. Protect your spirit. And finally, trust God with the outcome. Silence is an act of surrender. It says, I don't need to control this. I don't need to fix this. I don't need to explain this. God, I trust you. That trust will change how you walk, how you think, how you speak. You will notice your words becoming fewer, but heavier. Your presence becoming calmer, but stronger. Your peace becoming stable, not fragile. This is not withdrawal. This is wisdom in motion. And as you practice this daily, silence will stop feeling like effort. It will feel like home. Conclusion. Your silence is your shield. Chosen one, let me leave you with this truth, and I want it to settle deep in your spirit. God did not tell you to shut your mouth to limit you. He told you to protect you. Silence, in this season, is not punishment. It is preservation. It is your shield. You are not falling behind. You are not missing out. You are not losing your voice. You are being positioned. God is guarding what He placed inside you because it is too valuable to be exposed carelessly. And the fact that you are even hearing this message is proof that God is watching over you closely. Your silence is doing more than arguments ever could. It is keeping you aligned. It is keeping you peaceful. It is keeping you out of battles you were never meant to fight. While others are reacting, explaining, defending, and exhausting themselves, you are being trained to move with wisdom and authority. Remember this, chosen one. When God is ready for you to speak again, you won't have to force it. You won't have to push. Your words will land with weight. Your presence will carry clarity, and the outcome will speak louder than any explanation ever could. Until then, rest in obedience. Trust the process. Let God work without interruption. Let silence finish its assignment. Before you go, chosen ones, if this message resonated with your spirit, give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon so you don't miss what God is revealing next. And share this message with other chosen ones who need this confirmation right now. And comment 777 in the comments as a declaration that you are aligned, obedient, and walking in divine wisdom. Stay grounded, stay faithful, and remember, your silence is your strength.